All right. Hello, everyone. Today we're looking at the Hawthorne study. It is probably one of the most famous research studies that had many flaws and biases. So, my name is Natasha Alston. I am a teacher at Mountain Point High School in Phoenix, Arizona. I also am an adjunct professor, instructor at Rio Salado. So, what will we learn today? In the last video, we talked about flaws and biases in research. I gave you guys terms like confounding variables, I gave you placebo effect, I gave you experimental bias and participant bias. Well, this study, the Hawthorne effect, which was conducted in 1927, is probably one of the most famous because of the flaws and the biases that were inherent in the study. The Hawthorne plant is in Cicero, Illinois, and it led to what is now known as the Hawthorne effect. We will examine the study for its flaws, as well as address how the study could have been conducted differently. Okay, some background history. Um, it was with the Western Electric Company. Again, it was in 1927. The management of the Western Electric Company in Cicero had brought in a research professor by the name of Elton Mayo to conduct a study to identify the conditions by which workers would boost their own productivity. So for this, the independent variable, which is, remember, the thing that is being manipulated, was the length of their rest period, their work day, and the work week, while the dependent variable was the level of productivity of the subjects. So what did they do? The design was 5 women. Women worked in teams where they were observed. Again, the independent variable, they varied their rest time, and over time they would shorten their work day and then the work week. The dependent variable was whether the women were going to be able to be productive, more productive under these conditions. The results. Well, initially the productivity of the women increased with the increase of the rest period and shortened work week and work day. The researchers actually believed that the women came back more refreshed, they were more rested, and they believed that this was due to the shortened work week and the shortened work day. However, when researchers allowed the women to return to their original work schedule, they realized that the productivity was still the same. Surprise, surprise, the women remained to do the amount of productivity that they had been doing previously. Why? Well, this is where we get the Hawthorne effect. What they learned, kind of serendipity, meaning what that basically means is that by accident, they didn't plan to look this up or find this or study this. What they found out was that when people are observed, they tend to do the best that they can at that moment. With observation, these women continue to work harder because they knew they were being observed. So it's like anything else in life. When you know someone's watching you, you're going to do your best. But were there other flaws with this study? Yes, there were a lot of other flaws. First of all, the control group, they didn't have one, right? And remember from prior, control groups are those who are not going to be observed, those who are not going to get the decreased productivity, those who are not going to be have the short work week and a short work day. There was no control group. Number two, the experimental group was too small, only 5 subjects. A sample size of only 5 is insufficient. Studies need to be more. They needed at least 20 or so more subjects, if not way more. Subjects did not remain the same over the course of the experiment. Actually, this is where we see experimental bias because what they would do was remove subjects that they felt talked too much, had low productivities, and were considered overall negative influence on the other women. Now, if they're removing people, then are we really saying that the productivity of the women based on their rest breaks and their work day and work week? Is that really how we're going to examine these women? No. So those were the problems that were inherent in it. And we also had participant bias. The longer one does a particular job, the better they become at it over time. So the participants got better because they got more skilled, and therefore, because they got more skilled, they were able to do the task better. So, what should be the takeaway from the Hawthorne effect? Researchers must be aware of their flaws and their biases when conducting their research. To avoid confounding variables and flaws and biases in research, research must be careful when designing their studies. For example, researchers must be aware of outside influence, their own desire to have their findings confirm their hypothesis, and subjects are unaware of the expectations or desires of the researchers. Okay, everyone, thanks. See you next time.